was born when I was really, really young. In Argentina, but then my parents migrated to Australia when I was 10. So I went to school there and I forgot Spanish and Australia. And then I went back to Argentina in my 20s and I relearned Spanish. And this bizarre thing happens to your mind that my parents said you can't speak Spanish at home. We're now Australians, from now on we speak English, and that was the whole comedy about most people that know me for a long time know my stories about my mum. Mispronunciation of the English language, which taught me so many dirty words. Yeah? Breakfast is one of those words, and but then my dad was really forceful about if we're not Argentinian anymore, it means we're not Argentinian. If we were Argentinian, we'd be in Argentina. He really made it a thing, which was awesome, but also hard. But an amazing thing happens when you start thinking in a new language and speaking in a new language. The new language, the way you associate to words, really creates a whole new reality, a different kind of clock. Things don't have gender anymore in English, they had gender in Spanish, so they had all this, la pared, the wall's always female, because it's hard, you can't get through to them. No. That's not true. So is the moon, La Luna, so everything has this flavor that is lost in English. So I did that, and then an amazing thing happened. I went back to Argentina in my 20s. I couldn't speak barely a few words. And then very quickly, week after week after week, it just came so fast. And then one night, it was about 3 months into being in South America, I dreamt in Spanish, and I didn't know you were dreaming in a language. I didn't know I was dreaming in English before. It's like you just dream. The language of dreams, language. And then all of a sudden I can dream in us, which means all the objects of your dream have a different color. The moon is now feminine. All of a sudden, before it was a moon, an object. It was a bizarre shift. Like that, this can shift our minds. How's that for transition? Did you see that? Yeah. Like similarly, no. So I just want to share a couple of concepts because now we go into the space age. I have zero idea what happens in these parts. Yeah, I'm lucky if I get pronunciation. I think I'm going to get pleasure from drinking a latte every morning out of the sticks. Yeah. And then there are times you get renunciations, usually when bad things happen, yeah? Or when good things go away, you get a renunciation. Really. Then you habituate that and that builds. And sure, I've been studying and I've been making efforts, but I've got zero clue that what I'm telling you is exactly a certain way or another way. Like all of us, you sniff it, you have a sense when you see it. And if you do, one of the things you realize is that you can't talk about it anyway. Because it's like saying to a dog, this is a clock, tick-tock. And the dog goes, woof. If you're a pakpa and you're trying to make efforts to communicate your understanding of everything to a sosokewo, it is just like a dog being grabbed and you're trying to put the pen in its hand and go and go, draw me a picture, it's drawing a picture. And they're like, no, it's picture. It's like that. Yeah. So this is the part that it gets a little psychedelic for me, because we're beginning to go through the path of habituation, and there's all these things that the Buddha spoke in his sutras in the Diamond Cutter Psalm that say what happens after you have a complete understanding for a millisecond, for a few minutes, of the ultimate nature of things, and then you're back here, transported back into this realm, and things look fishy. Now you know why they looked fishy all along. They weren't the way you thought they were. Now you know that they're still acting that way. So then you begin the habituation of removing all the things that cause this realm to have suffering. And the way you relate to every being, the way you look back at your history, and you saw that shitty experience and that good experience, and the way you experience that, you know that you've met beings that pushed you along this path to this point, and you know that it doesn't come from its own side, it's a mind war. Yeah? So let's share some of the ideas that happens there. So this class, which is if you're doing the homeworks and quizzes, even if you do one of them, it helps your brain. This is class 7. 10 minutes of class 7, 10 minutes of class 8, then we get to enlightenment, she'll be right. The Buddha asks Subhuti on page 41 of the Sutra. Yeah. So he says, Subhuti, what do you think? Do those who have destroyed the foe ever think to themselves, now I have achieved the state of destroying the foe? Destroying the foe. Who's the foe we're destroying?
Ignorance.
Mental afflictions. Yeah? The things that harm our mind, the things, any experience that you have a negative feeling towards is an afflicted mind. The foe destroyer, the one that destroys the foe, is the mind who has gotten to a point where nothing disturbs their state of mind. The foe destroyer is an arhat. It's somebody who's reached nirvana. Yeah? In the Bodhisattva track, it's the 8th Bodhisattva booming stuff. Yeah?
The 8th, I'm sorry.
Bodhisattva booming. There's 10 Bodhisattva grounds. Bhumis means ground or stages. You thought it was all over when you saw the ultimate. I saw the universe. Whoop, back into this projection. It's like being John Malkovich. Yeah, it's like you come back into another metaphor of a movie. You come back and you're having this experience through this thing, and you've got no control about what that thing is doing, but you're seeing it differently now. Yeah. So. The Buddha asks, do you think that a foe destroyer would think to themselves, I'm a foe destroyer, Subhuti? And Subhuti says, no, not at all. I know because you've been telling me. They say they do not. Why? Again, it's because they do not, they would think, if they think that they are self-existently a foe destroyer, that I am self-existently in nirvana, then they're not in nirvana. If I think, hey, I made it, I'm free of all these mental afflictions from my own side, then no, you have not, the Buddha says. This is where it gets meta, because the whole sutras has this flavor. He says, is there a Buddha? There's no Buddha. Is there a teaching that I give you? There's no teaching. Is there a foe destroyer? There's no foe destroyer. And if you haven't studied, you could be excused for thinking, I can do anything I want. And that's not what he's saying. There's code in this thing, and that's why the classes are important. There's been explanations given by the Buddha and then commentaries upon those explanations that let you decode what this means. Is there such a thing as a foe destroyer? Is there a time where your mind no longer has afflictive emotions? Do you think it's possible to have that state of mind?
No, I don't think in this body or in this mind.
As a human, right? You're saying, okay, what about as a patpa? Is it possible to become a patpa and a realized being?
Of course. Yes.
Why is it possible?
Because we have examples. We've seen examples.
That could be one, but...
Because you're empty.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Because you don't have a nature of your own. If mind is empty of being mind, the way you think of it, and the only reason it's the way you experience it is because of the old karmas, the old impulses that are habituated upon this object, then it can be anything. If you know what seeds to plant to produce anything.
Well, it simply already is.
Mm-hmm.
It already is.
That's interesting because there's a few views about that, right? So A, we already are, our mind is already has Buddha nature, yeah? And what that means is that the emptiness of your mind, the fact that your mind has no nature of its own to be functioning the way you think it's functioning, is exactly the same as the Buddha's mind, which has no nature to be functioning as a Buddha's mind. His mind, or her mind, is also a projection upon this thing we label mind. except their projection has no shittiness, has no samsaric cycles, has no suffering, and has no limit to knowing the universe. A human mind, the way, if you are the beings I'm assuming you to be, the way that I'm experiencing you as regular Joes, some of you, then that nature doesn't exist in this mind. It's just like the clock. Yeah? So what did the Buddha mean that there is, if that there are no arhats? He meant not from their own side. That's all he meant. Yeah. So, quick story about the Bodhisattva bhumis, because you might get that in a moment. There are 10 Bodhisattva grounds or 10 Bodhisattva bhumis. The first one begins up on the third path, seeing emptiness directly. When you have, if you're on the Bodhisattva track, if you have a direct experience of emptiness, that's the first of the Bodhisattva bhumis. And the next 5, the first 6 in total, are in flavor, are perfections, are grounds based on the 6 perfections. So you have perfection of giving, perfection of life, perfection of patience, perfection, etc. Joyful effort, etc. The 7th is the paramita, or the perfection of skillful means. You develop or you perfect that aspect of your mind. And then at the 8th Bodhisattva bhumi, something awesome happens. So, where are we? So, Dra Chompa is enemy destroyer, or foe destroyer. Dra Chompa. Something awesome happens at the 8th Bodhisattva bhumi, according to this text. Then you reach a level called great mastery. That's great mastery over things that will never grow. And there are 2 things that will never grow. One is the answer to everything. If you don't know, just say emptiness, right? And then you'll get the answer. Why does emptiness never grow? This is a philosophical question to test your understanding of emptiness.
It's not a changing thing.
Thank you. It's not a produced thing. Yeah, they can't grow. But it's interesting because if I destroy the wall, the wall has emptiness, right? If I get rid of the wall, there's no wall here. Where's that emptiness? It's not there. It's not there. Right? Gone. So it comes into existence and it goes out of existence, but it's not produced and it doesn't grow. There's debates and
It's permanent while it lasts.
Thank you.
Make that up.
It's permanent but not changing.
Yeah. Permanent while it lasts. That's from the text.
Yeah.
I always love that.
Awesome.
Why is it not changing? It is changing. It changes when it goes out of existence.
No. It is in existence or is out of existence. And you say, well, did it change? Did the emptiness of this wall, because now this wall is now bricks, right? A whole bunch of broken bricks on the ground. Is that emptiness become the emptiness of that one brick? No. That brick that is now an object has its own emptiness. It's coming into existence whenever you label the brick. That's another story. So that something cool happens at the 8th Bodhisattva bhumi. You get this mastery over things that never grow. The first one is emptiness. Yeah, you get some kind of mastery about that. The second one is your mental afflictions. They will never grow. That's it. They stop.
Isn't that the same thing?
No. Why is it not the same thing?
Because one's karma.
What's a mental affliction? And what's emptiness? How are they different? One's a lack of a thing, and the other's a positive experience. One's a dependent thing. Yeah? One's a thing, the other one is a non-thing. You can't even say, so just labeling an emptiness is a horrible thing because we're calling something that isn't here.
And one is created by us. Mental afflictions are our own products, aren't they?
I was thinking subsiding the mental afflictions would be the emptiness of your mind. That's what I thought it was.
Like the emptiness of your mind was there when you were having mental afflictions. It's not that your mind is empty of mental afflictions now. It just means
You understand why you're having that mental affliction and that it's not impact.
you stop having mental afflictions arise. That's what this means, part A. Emptiness of that situation would mean something else. Emptiness itself is completely different to that dependent arising experience of now things were afflicting me, now they are not. The emptiness of that situation would be, someone give me the emptiness of that situation, your mind perceiving that you no longer have mental afflictions. Because that's the emptiness of that situation. Your mind is projecting upon its parts, which is moment-to-moment consciousness. Yeah? The projection that you no longer have mental afflictions. It's not a choice. It's as forced upon you as this experience is forced upon you.
It's a karma.
Of course it's a karma. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So you're always producing karma even at that level?
At some point, and I don't know exactly at which point, your karmas go from black and white karmas to white karmas, to pure karmas. Okay? So long as your karmas are infused with ignorance, you will have this experience come into being and go out of it. At some point, your mental projections are no longer colored or infused with ignorance. You can force that to happen in the path of habituation. This is where you have the great battles between seeing emptiness directly. You thought you were having bad battles now of trying to figure out how this world works. Once you see emptiness directly, you have much bigger weapons for the battle of understanding how this universe works, how your experience of this universe creates this universe. When you see emptiness directly, you have a mother weapon that destroys ignorance, but it takes time. You will get cut, and you will you will be hurt. But you will know that the hurt doesn't come from the things you're fighting, and that the fighting, at some point you realize that the fighting in itself is a play.
So like just purifying.
You're just purifying. Yeah. There's two ways to get to paradise, to get to a state of bliss. There's just two things producing us not to be in bliss. One is our past karmas, the collection of our past karmas. The other one is all the shitty things we do right now to cause the later past karmas. So me getting angry now, me getting jealous now, so the mental afflictions we have right now, they force me to say and do and think wrong things that then produce me some karmas that I have to call past karmas later. Does that make sense? The only two things between us and a state of complete paradise are past karmas producing a nominal experience because they're all infused with that ignorance that does not understand the nature of the universe. Yeah. And secondly, my mental afflictions, which I see as forcing me to make bad karmas. If you're doing something nasty to me, I had the most horrible thought about my Lama a couple of years ago, and I remember it scared me. Because I wanted to really understand, and I really wanted to understand. There were a few things he didn't explain to me, and I wish he didn't explain. And I imagined, I'm purifying by telling you this, I'm imagining standing in front of him and him fixed, unable to move, and going, no, but why, but why, but why, but why, but why, but why, until he got angry at me, yeah, in my meditation. And I'm like, I caused my Lama to be angry at me, you know? And no amount of effort in this worldly path will stop you from planting ignorant karmas unless you see emptiness directly. So, the two things preventing us from experiencing a state of complete and utter bliss in this thing we call everything, it doesn't have to be the way we're experiencing. Just within us there's differences. Where did those differences come from? You were just lucky? Where did you think it come from? Someone over there planted some things over here that you got to step into, but she didn't. Who was it? Who did it? It's your mind. It's creating this universe, and our collective minds are creating a collective experience, each from their own side of the net. So the two things preventing us from experiencing this everything into a magnificent thing are the collection of shitty things we've ever done negative karmas or colored black and white karmas or black karmas, and the mental afflictions that force us to do and behave and think things in a negative way. Are you with me on that?
Yes.
So how do you clean out mental afflictions? How do you stop mental afflictions?
Meditation. What if you just pretend that everything is paradise and you ignore the shittiness?
That won't do it. That's what the story about me yelling at Geshe was. At some point, you're going to break because you don't know. The only thing that stops mental afflictions is the direct experience of suchness, of emptiness. Because then you know without a doubt, remember? No doubt anymore, how this world operates. You've got the code for the machine, and now you go about using the machine. So that stops mental afflictions. And at the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi, you've gone through perfecting giving and perfecting morality and perfecting joyful effort and perfecting not getting angry, perfecting meditation and perfecting wisdom. And at the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi, you have skillful means, and then at the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi, you've perfected no mental afflictions. Yeah? But the cause of that was having a direct experience of suchness. So out of the two things preventing us from getting rid of removing the veil between us and perfect universe, A, seeing emptiness directly will get rid of the negative afflictions now. B, how do you get rid of all your past karmas?
Purify.
Purify. So, another beautiful thing happens at the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi. They say after me, Lung Tempa.
Lung Tempa.
Lung Tempa. It means, Lung, anyone knows what Lung means? Lung?
Teacher.
Wind. Yeah, wind. It's not that kind of wind. It's, mental affliction. Good. Speech, the word. The Buddha gives the word. And what this means in this part, it means several things. It means the things the Buddha spoke, like the sutras, like the Vinaya and the Abhidhamma, where he gave the word that something's either karmically charged, positively or negative. That's one meaning. That's not what it means here. Another meaning is where he didn't actually give the word. The 14 questions he was asked that he never answered because he was set up and he knew that whatever answer he gave, the person would take it the wrong way, so he never answered. That one was the beginning of mind. The real meaning here is that at the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi, you have the karma to have an experience of an ultimate being granting you your name. And they'll say, on this day, at this time, you shall be called. Yeah? Shakyamuni Buddha had, I can't remember the name of his Buddha, something like this. When he was under the Bodhi tree, had that experience, and he put his foot on his head and says, "You shall be called Shakyamuni, and you will live X number of years, etc., etc."
If you're not on the Bodhisattva track,
Yeah.
what is that too much of a divergence from?
Too much of a diversion for 3 minutes. So at that point, when you attain nirvana, then you no longer have the 6 negative afflictions, which are pride, anger, jealousy, hatred, ignorance, and mental afflictions, and wrong view. There's this story about King Kalinka, which is explaining, as you go through the path of habituation, how at the very last parts, just before you flop over into the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi or Nirvana, the Buddha was said to be in a previous life found in a garden where he was meditating, and this beautiful maiden came and sat next to him, and she was in awe of him, so they were having this beautiful discussion. She happens to be the queen of King Kalinga, and King Kalinga, with his horses are riding by, seeing his queen talking to some dude, he gets angry, he decides to chop up the dude. The Buddha in his previous life was a high bodhisattva, only the 8th bodhisattva, or after the 8th bodhisattva Bhumi, I think. And so they tie him to the ground and start chopping him finger by finger, section by section, arm, and so on, one by one. And the Buddha tells, even in the Sutra, that he didn't get angry because he didn't see himself the way we normally would see ourselves. He knew that this is a result of his past karma, and if he wanted more of this, he should get angry at King Kalinga. But because he had enough habituation through the path of habituation, he could not get angry at King Kalinga. So you'll get a question in your homework, do you think that hurt?
Is that the way the Dalai Lama doesn't get angry at the Chinese? So it's sort of on that same thing.
It could be along the same thing, yeah, but imagine perceiving, being the Dalai Lama and experiencing that. I'm assuming that Dalai Lama is an enlightened being, or at least on some bhumi, or Bodhisattva bhumi, if not the ultimate bhumi. But imagine having that perception of genocide, or even your body being cut up, like in King Kalinga's, in Shakyamuni Buddha's previous life when he met King Kalinga. Imagine your body being chopped up. Yeah, you're in a nominal reality. You're at the end of your enlightenment path. You know how the world functions. That every experience you've ever had is just a return mirror or echo of some intention you created in your world before. So you know that the chopping of your fingers, and then your hand and your arm until you go out of consciousness, is only the production upon emptiness of your past karma, right? If you want more of that, you get angry and yell at that guy as being the cause of this. But does it hurt?
Yes.
Yeah, let's look at the nominal stuff, right? There's blood and guts, and
But
it hurts.
he saw emptiness, though, hasn't he?
He has. Seeing emptiness does not excuse you from having to experience all the karmas that you've collected up until that point.
But if he was at the 8th bhumi, would he not? I mean,
If he-
wouldn't he not?
Actually, I think he was just
mental-
before. I've got to check exactly
Yeah.
which bhumi he was at.
Yeah.
They said he was a bodhisattva. I can't the good point. Yeah,
If he
if
was
you have no
before-
mental afflictions, it wouldn't hurt him, right?
Why wouldn't that hurt him? Why is hurt not a mental
Pain is
affliction?
only a perception.
No, if he's in nirvana.
Oh, after.
Yeah, if he's in
But
nirvana.
even if he's still at the 8th, it's only after the 8th. I thought that you're the 8th. This, if,
At
even
the
if
eighth, you get mastery over emptiness, and you get mastery over mental afflictions, which means you shouldn't hurt. I'll check. How about that? I'll check. But my understanding from King Kalinga's story, he must have been before that, is that yes, it hurt. There was pain, so there was an affliction, but there was no ignorance marring that affliction. Meaning he wasn't labeling the cause of this is that. He understood that the cause of this is my mind. That's all the point I want to make about that. Do you mind if I go an extra 5 minutes and then I feel I've finished? Good, I'm going to go an extra 5 minutes. Because this is the part, so you asked the question, how do you create? What is it that takes us to Buddhahood, to a state of enlightenment? And there's just two things. You remove your past karmas, which is purifications, we'll talk about that in a second, and you stop your mental afflictions. Stopping your mental afflictions, it's easy, you just got to see emptiness directly, right? So,
Listen to your therapist.
and that stops it. That stops you from planting more of the negative karmas. Then you've got a pool full of karmas to clean out, and then purification is the way you clean out. I'm going to talk quickly about the 4 forces, and I'm going to just leave the last few seconds between the 8th Bodhisattva bhumi all the way to enlightenment. I'm going to leave that till next class, next week. That'll be the last class, and that's a good beginning to the next class. It's a little bizarre. Even the commentaries say it's difficult to explain, even though the Buddha put answers in all sorts of sutras. It's just a weird thing for a mind that's caught up in this reality to consider what are the last millisecond moments between seeing things this way and then seeing absolutely everything of all time, past, present, and future. Its nominal nature and its ultimate nature at once. We can't even hold nominal and relative at the same time. In this realm, we can't even get relative or ultimate, other than an intellectual sense. So, the other part to move towards enlightenment is to clean your past karmas. And there's this thing, the Buddha taught it. It's called the 4 forces, and I've covered it in the karma course, but I want to give you a quick thing because this is also protection. Okay? This actually lets you look at, if you're on the planet, if you're a human on planet Earth, there's something afflicting you. There's something causing you pain. There is something, and you've got your flavor, and I've got my flavor. Yeah, and mine is like that slippery soap I talked about. I don't get to see mine so well. Other people get to see mine, and you don't get to see yours so well because it's slippery. It's got you. It's that ignorance that's got you by the fill in the blank. The four forces. The first four. So this is 4 steps you do to clean out any of that kind of energy or affliction. First the big ones, and then more subtle ones. The first thing you do, if you want to clean out something really dark and negative or something that keeps coming up in your life, like jealousy or anger, frustration, pride, anything that causes you hurt, the first thing you do with this thing is you do what's called the foundation force, which this is refuge with bodhicitta. So what does that really mean in a practical example is what I wanted to cover. So you've got something you could use. This is you wake up every morning and you know that if you're experiencing this as samsara, that you will meet something that will afflict you sometime today. So first thing in the morning, you wake up and you go, I'm not in line yet, I'm still here. I know I'm going to meet something that will trigger so many of my afflictions, or the most powerful affliction, the one that keeps coming back. I know I'm going to meet that thing today, and it'll either be a person, or a thing, or a situation, or a memory, or a friend. It'll come today. This is on the first ground, on the first of the 4 forces. This is called the base force or basis force. Taking refuge here means I'm preparing myself for that moment by thinking now that thing does not have a nature from its own side. That the anger I might feel or the jealousy I might feel is imputed upon that situation, even though that's telling me that it comes from there. Yeah? So you prepare yourself in the morning, you go, okay, today I'm purifying. I'm purifying chunks of karmas. I'm preparing myself for that thing I'm going to meet today that I know I've met before, but today there'll be one special one that will ship me off and I'll fix it today. I will look for its emptiness, because when you're thinking of its emptiness, you can't hold the relative and the ultimate at the same time, so you can't be afflicted. Yeah? And the second part is you think of some bodhicitta. You think of bodhicitta, the wish to care for other sentient beings. And if you are thinking bodhicitta, that being that's afflicting you is part of the people you're supposed to be taking care of, right? So getting jealous over somebody that got something that you wanted, if you got jealous because somebody got the job you wanted or someone got money that you wanted or whatever, imagine what you'd feel when that person's getting enlightened before you. Like what the hell, right? Like what are you playing for? So you think of bodhicitta and you take refuge. You think of the emptiness of the situation, meaning if I act like in King Kalinga's thing, if I get angry at the king for cutting me, I'm producing more of the cuts. If I don't get angry and I look for the situation, that does not mean you just take on suffering stupidly. If you can move from the suffering not self-existently, you move. Okay? But the basis of this is emptiness. The next thing is you do intelligent regret. You actually spend some time after you've encountered that thing, and let's say you got angry, or you got jealous, or you got whatever the affliction was, instantly you think every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That experience, karma, I've just planted a seed for anger. I can't go back 3 minutes in my consciousness and remove it. It's in there. It is now growing. Whatever I did to them must result in the same and equal but bigger reaction. The tree will come out of the seed. Yeah? By yelling at her stupidly because I thought she got me angry, I've just planted a flavor in my mind for that kind of anger to come back at me many-fold. The longer it stays in there, the more vines it grows, the bigger it gets. And this should get you a sense, a gut-wrenching sense of regret. I wish I hadn't drunk that poison. Then that should flip you over to the third force, which is restraint. And this is why, this is interesting. People say, Buddhists, you have These 4 forces, you can clean your karma, that's easy, it's like the morning after pill, you know. The third force is why purification really truly works. It's because if you understand, if you're looking for the ultimate nature, step number 1, refuge, yeah, understand the emptiness of the situation. Number 2, generate some kind of regret that the energy of jealousy, anger, whatever is in you growing, and you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I want to remove it. This should generate the third one, which is restraint, which means don't do that again. I mean, that's why it works, because you're not planting the seeds to get the weeds. It's not that, oh, I've done the 4 forces, then tomorrow I can be jealous again. No. You should make efforts for a habitual pattern to remove the pattern. So you can say, I'm not going to be jealous for the next 2 hours or for the next situation. You make efforts in that way. For something major, like something like you stole money from somebody or something like that, you can say, I'll never do that again. Or you've hurt somebody physically, I'll never punch another person, something like that. Yeah? But for things that are habitual, like states of mind, Geshe-la explains, and I relate, that you might break your commitment to not do something before you get off the cushion. You know, before you finish your 4 forces, you've already committed it. You already broke your promise. And I'm not ever going to get jealous that, oh shit, I hate that person. Oh! You know? Like, so you get it? Step number 1, some kind of understanding of the emptiness of the situation. You know it will come, you promise, you look for that. Bodhicitta, making sure you are working for the sake of others, not just yourself. Number 2, some kind of genuine regret that storehouse of seeds is growing now in your mind and you can't remove it unless you do this properly. Number 3, you stop doing the stuff. You make efforts to stop being jealous. And at some point you will win. At some point you won't be jealous when the same situation comes. At some point you won't be angry when the same. I can tell you that for sure, from experience, absolutely. This is the beginning of Buddhist practice. And then number 4, you do some kind of make-up activity. So yes, you've short-circuited the negative seed for anger or jealousy by doing the first of the 3 forces. Now you want to put on top of that soil a whole bunch of really good seeds that will overpower that tree. So you do something opposite to make up. So for example, there was a student like Ken Rinpoche, so Geshe Madhu's teacher, my teacher's teacher. Yeah? There was another student in that Gompa in New Jersey who says some flavor of negativity in his mind. He knows he had done something bad because he was in Vietnam and he had sprayed gunfire over the forest. He never saw himself planting the karma of killing somebody. He's not sure whether he's killed anybody. But he sprayed copious amounts of ammunition over forest with the intent to hurt people. So he says that's it eating away at him. So he's got some regret. He's thought about the emptiness of the situation, etc. So he asked Ken Rinpoche what he should do. And so Ken Rinpoche said, I know your father's got some sheep that he sells to the slaughterhouse. I want you to get a couple of those sheep and look after their lives, protect their lives, do the opposite of the karma you're cleaning, protect their lives until their natural death. So look after them, make sure no harm comes to them until they pass. Apparently sheep live way longer than he thought. So 18 years later, he was looking after the sheep and they died naturally. And that's some kind of make-up activity that lets you plant the opposite energy in your consciousness to then produce the kind of world you want. You do this until the goodness in your mind overflows the sadnesses, the suffering, the negativity. So there's 2 types of make-up activity. One is that kind of nominal. So if you've hurt somebody, look after somebody. If you've cheated on someone, make sure you're loyal to people. If you've lied to people, make sure you tell them truths, etc. That's this kind of makeup. But the ultimate makeup activity, what do you think it is? Wisdom and understanding of emptiness. So study this thing. Studying emptiness is the direct antidote. And then the Buddha says, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a The Buddha says to Subhuti. So emptiness is the ultimate antidote because understanding how the world functions produces the world you want and stops the suffering which was caused by the ignorance which meant you didn't know. So the last the last of the line says, O Subhuti, any son or daughter of noble family, that means anyone that wants to be a bodhisattva, who takes up a sutra like this, and who holds it, or who reads it, or who comprehends it, yeah, will suffer. They will suffer intensely. Remember, it was like a voodoo prediction at the beginning. Why is this so? He says to Subhuti. Because, O Subhuti, such a beings are purifying non-virtuous karmas from the entire string of their past lives, karmas that would have taken them to the 3 lower realms. As they purify this karma, because you're understanding how the world works, you are destroying deep, dark pockets of karma that would take lifetimes to clean out or to experience in the 3 lower realms, for example. As they purify this karma, it causes them to suffer here in this life. As such, they will succeed in cleaning away the karma of their non-virtuous deeds of their previous lifetimes. And they will as well achieve the enlightenment of a Buddha. So what they're saying here is that you will hurt as you suffer turning against the tides of this world. It will hurt. But the hurts that you're having because of this wisdom, if you understand where things come from, are minuscule compared to what would have hurt if you didn't understand this wisdom. You are now decoding your matrix. That takes some hurt, yeah, but it's nothing compared to that. In fact, it cleans away the storehouse of past potential for hurt. That's how these words, understanding that you create your reality truly, but not self-existent, cleans away past.
So we can actually be happy when bad stuff happens to us because it won't happen anymore or that
Partly, you can dedicate that other beings don't have to go through, but ultimately you have to think of the ultimate nature of that so the cycle doesn't keep happening. Because then you can build up a silly habit of, oh, I'm just a martyr, and I'm going to hurt all the time. That's not help you helping anyone. So quick dedication. Sorry it took a little while, but hey, we did 2 classes. Yay. There are all these words I didn't tell you about. Well, basically it means, I'll tell you now, I'm going to have to do the class. It means that there's all these things that happen to you instantly at the last moments of your enlightenment. You perceive a perfect paradise higher than no other. That's called Okmin. And Okmin is the experience you have at the last moments of enlightenment. You have a projection body over there that goes to over here. You project into this world. You pretend to be birthed out of a given parent. And you go through all the cycles that the Buddha did. And find people and you teach them how to decode their world, and that world becomes perfect. That's what's happening right here.
You told us the aha too.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. Did you have an aha? Then for you, I didn't. Let's see.
Sashi.
Ukirjishin metotra Viradinsyinde Gapadi Sangha Shindu Mite Vivargi Drogunanda Shinna Triparsho Hiranguratnamanda Kamnyatayami Divyawaku Sunam Yashe Toksokshin Sunam Yashe Vejunwe Vedamba Puri Tuparsho. I'm just going to ask you for a second just to think of my friend's father who's laying in bed and the family's around them, reading them cards of all their friends and family who are saying their goodbyes. Dedicate any awareness of goodness or transformation or any purification that you've wished for. See if you can dedicate and make it land on that family and any family like that that exists anywhere on the planet. So they have some kind of awareness that it's, in the end, it will be okay, that the suffering can stop. See if you can minimize that experience for them or any being who has to or will go through that experience. And feel joy for doing that. And thank you for coming to class.
Thank you for teaching.
Thanks, Hector.
Next Thursday is the last class, and we're going to be tight to do 2 classes, and I wanted to do a long, I wanted to do the transmission. We're going to probably run over next class. You don't have to stay for the long, but I would like to do it because it's the right time to do it, yeah? And then for those that come, you'll also get, and you've been in class a few times, you'll get a copy of the Diamond and Cutter Sutra, which is the most profound and so you'll get a bound Tibetan pager, yeah? That you can keep on your altar or yeah. Blessed by lamas and the rest. So see you next class if you come to the last one. And then a most amazing course starts the following week.
Oh, okay.
Next one is 9 and 10, and then